Hi everyone, my name is Christiana and today I'm here with Amanda and we're going to be talking all about her life, her journey, mental health, and so much more. And I firstly wanted to say my name is Christiana, and I started Teenage Mental Love because I realized how many people were experiencing issues and challenges with mental health, but not many people were speaking about it, or if they did, it wasn't for a very long time. And I first want to say thank you so much for everyone who's watching. I'm so grateful. And Amanda here is she's amazing, amazing at makeup, art, everything, and we're going to be jumping right in. We're going to be talking all about her life, and I really hope you guys all enjoy this interview, and I will link all of her social media down below.
So Thank you so much, Christiana. I can't wait.
Thank you, of course. And I firstly wanted to ask you, this is kind of like a very general question, but what is your goal in life?
My goal in life. It's general, but it's a very big one too. I think it's something that we all ask, a very existential one, of course. I'd say my goal in life is to give back. I think the biggest thing that we have to keep in mind is that we should all have a sense of selflessness within us, to give back and to always lead a good example for those around us.
Of course. And that's absolutely wonderful, and that's amazing. And I love that so much. And when it comes to your goal in life, I wanted to ask you, does that ever, because you said giving back, does that ever tie in with your mental health and how you're doing mentally right now?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm not good at it yet. I have not succeeded my goal in life. I am slowly etching away at it.
Of course.
But I'd say when it comes to mental health, I think all of us, especially when we're going through puberty, from high school to university, or every new transition we have, your mental health is always something that comes to the very front of your face, and almost like it feels like an obstacle you have to get over. But there comes a point where you just have to walk with it hand in hand, because it almost feels like sometimes you have an inner saboteur, which we all do. We have an inner saboteur. It's called the ego, and the point of the ego is that it wants to kill you, really, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to learn to sit with it and silence it, because it will be with you, and at some points it's going to be louder than others. And for girls, when we have PMS sometimes, or even more extreme PMDD, which is a more extreme version of what happens when we're about to go through our cycles, it becomes very loud, and it can almost feel like it's going to cripple you. But you just have to remember that the magnified sense of self we have on ourselves, which is very extreme now with social media, with technology and everything. It's so good to have these things, but you can't help but see that we feel like we're looking at ourselves underneath a magnifying glass, and we feel like we have to dissect.
Definitely.
But I think the important thing that I've learned only recently in the past few months is taking that circle and just widening it, and taking that narrow vision we have and just looking around and knowing that it's not that big, and it'll never be that big as long as you don't want it to be that big.
Definitely. And again, wonderful, phenomenal. And I love what you said, especially when connecting with social media, because that is so true. It's almost like we don't know what to think because we're so used to social media telling us what to think, telling us what to do, because everyone has I don't know, this is so random, but everyone has an iPhone, oh, I must have an iPhone, I must have a MacBook, I can't have a Windows laptop. And it's kind of crazy because, just like you said, our ego and everything, it's almost like, do we even have our own personalities? Do we even have something that we control? And yeah, widening that aspect, I love that so much. And when you were growing up, was there ever a time when you realized that your mental health was really impacting you, or you realized how important mental health was to you?
Yeah. So I come from a family of immigrant parents from China, and I know other kids, people of color, or they are American born to immigrant parents, can relate that oftentimes mental health is not as strongly stressed as it would be in a country like North America. And I think it's very important to keep in mind that although there's a stigma, everyone is always here to learn, no matter how old or how young they are. And for me, I'd say when going through grade 7 or grade 8,
Yeah.
is when I really started to realize that my sense of self and my identity felt very shaken. It felt very uneasy. And that's when we all had a Tumblr back then, too. So we all knew what depression was, what body dysmorphia was.
Yeah.
A lot of times it felt almost a bit romanticized
Yes,
sometimes.
yes.
But it shouldn't take away from the fact that just because it's something that was it felt very unique to have something like that, didn't mean that it wasn't very real. So through grade 7 and 8, me, along with all my other classmates, of course, at the same time,
Yeah.
we were going through it and we didn't know what was up. A lot of our parents weren't too sure either. So there'd be things like ADHD medication, Adderall, Prozac, antidepressants, or Zoloft, or anything like that. A lot of pharmaceutical medications to deal with the fact that we weren't too sure why we weren't feeling like we were part of the norm anymore, like we were when we were younger. And I'd say that would be the point over there.
Yeah, wow. And that's like really, it's shocking because when you think back, just like you said, completely romanticized, I feel like from TV shows to YouTube videos to it's almost like people think it's pretty or it's something that you must have to say, oh yeah, I didn't eat, or and not only romanticized but also normalized. It's almost like so many people don't even realize that they have eating disorders because it's almost viewed as normal. And that's really really crazy to me, and that is so true. And I wanted to ask you, when you grow up, as you grow up, of course, how is your mental health, today compared to when you were in seventh grade or when you were going through a hard time?
Oh, definitely a journey. I got off those medications that all of us were trying out when we first started going through therapy and things like that. And I was lucky enough to have parents to, although not knowing what this whole concept was of mental health, willing to give it a try. And I will always be so grateful for that because I know sometimes I'm not as lucky as other people. And I'd say it's like 180. It's not the same person anymore. I'm a new person. It feels like I've died like times or something now.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a mental state where your brain's still developing too, and you sort of realize that it doesn't go like this. It's not like a nice little story that goes up to the climax. It's a fun little roller coaster. Definitely. You're just gonna have to ride around with it. Sometimes it's gonna plateau a bit, and sometimes it's gonna go down. It's gonna go down hard, but you're gonna recover from it, and it's going to be fine.
Of course. Yeah, and then in the end, it's gonna you're gonna push through, and you're gonna you're gonna experience something that's hard to you, but you can push through it, and you can fight and overcome something that's hard that you experience in your life. And I love that. That is so true. Life, the entire journey of life is almost like a roller coaster, and that is so wonderful that you said that. And I wanted to say, like you said, your goals for life as a whole, but do you have any goals like upcoming that are really, soon or near, goals that are near right now that you really want to like accomplish, or something that with your mental health, like something you want to change in your life?
Yeah, I'd say for myself, in terms of my mental health, I'm learning to be less controlling. I'm a Taurus, first and foremost, is my astrology sign. So I feel like I really need to have a very good grip on everything. And sometimes it definitely leaks out into my relationships or my friendships around me, where it gets very hard when you just can't control other people's opinions of you sometimes, because you feel like your sense of self is so important that when you see other people looking at you, you hear this all this time, put your best foot forward, like make sure you make the best, like good impression. But when every single time feels like the pressure of needing to make a good impression, that just kind of takes your soul and kind of keeps pushing it down like a little stress ball or something, where really it cannot have a form like that. It needs to be big. It has to be able to stretch. And I think my goal is to have less control of things. That's what was at the back of my mind, and I'm finally bringing it to the front of my cortex, right here. Which is, well, throughout my days, remember, it's okay if you can't control this one situation. Because everyone is so busy thinking about themselves already that whatever you do really will not have any effect on them. It's just all
amazing, like what you said, and that what you said. I saw that when I was like, I think it was 11, and I'm a Taurus as well. And I completely agree. Literally, like everything, it feels almost like if it's not in my control, it's gonna like spiral out of control, and then I'm going to feel completely overwhelmed. And I completely agree with that. And it's really impactful because not having something to control or not feeling that you have something under control, it's almost like it's hard to keep moving from that, or like you're stuck on that one thing. And that is, again, so true. And our personality can definitely impact your mental health, impact how we view every single thing as we move on in life. And also, I wanted to say, I read on one of your posts that you started a dream journal, and I wanted to ask you about it and what like inspired you to start that.
I love dreams, and I have the weirdest dreams sometimes, and I know everyone probably does,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
I dream a lot about like fishes or bugs sometimes, or
Mhm.
even just regular day things.
Yeah.
And if I'm on my phone too much, I even dream like I accidentally post something on Instagram and I can't delete it or
Oh
something, like one of those
my, yeah.
dreams.
Yeah.
But I think dreams are something that are your brain subconsciously trying to tell you something sometimes. And when you Google anything about your dream, millions of things pop up about what it could mean, what it could say about what you are and how you're doing mentally. But I think it's important for us that dreams should be more of like a fun thing to do, to journal about. When you journal things about, you're just rewriting and reverberating what has just happened. And it's important not to overanalyze this. And I think this is just something my dad has always told me, because I've always had a bit stranger dreams.
Yeah.
And he would go, do not look too much into your dreams, because people who get stuck analyzing their dreams think that their dreams are predicting what's going to happen in the future. Now, always change your attitude then. So dreams should always be something really fun to look at and to think about. But do not ever take them for face value. Just like psychic or anything like that.
Of course. And I feel like so many people are saying nowadays that, oh yeah, this dream tells the future and tells what's going to happen. Like if you dream that you're going to be rich, you will be rich. And it's almost like I love that too. I really do like that, because it's almost just take what you remember from it and just like you said, journal it, write it down, and just kind of like move on, because like almost like dwelling on something like that where it makes you think too much on it, and it's not really the purpose of it. And I love that. And you said that you were born from your parents who were Chinese. Your parents were Chinese and they were immigrants. And I wanted to ask you. You said, growing up in a family of when you had parents who were immigrants, it's almost that mental health wasn't talked about as much. But I wanted to ask you, growing up in that family, how was that different for you? Or did you ever look around you and notice that everyone around you was different from how you grew up or what you experienced when you were younger?
Yeah. I grew up in a place called Alberta in Canada, and it's a predominantly white. And a lot of the people who live there and I went to school with, their parents were born in Canada, their grandparents were born in Canada, their great-grandparents were probably from Ireland or something like that,
Yeah.
So when you look at them, it's very easy to not only feel different, but look different. And the hardest thing I had to overcome and still have to face on a day-to-day basis, despite living in Vancouver, predominantly Asian area now, is that this internalized self-hate racism I had for myself. And it was the fact that I had all these friends and they were so nice, these white girls. And when you go over to their family home, though, you see how different the family dynamic is. Or when you go to classes and you see how different the whole social hierarchy of school works for them, or the opportunities that they seem to get. And sometimes it does not always have to do with race, is what I always have to remind myself. But sometimes facts are facts. It just had to do with the fact that I look different. And it was a lot of jealousy in my parts. And I remember at night when I was younger, around grade 7, grade 6, I'd go to sleep and I'd just pray that I'd wake up with like blonde hair, like, and I'd have like a white family, and I'd just want, in those modern family kind of like sitcom families, because that's what I saw when I went to their houses.
Yeah.
And I never let them come to my house because I was so embarrassed of perhaps the food we ate, our family dynamic, the fact that my parents had a bit of an accent, and the fact that we weren't a very emotional family either. And I think a lot of immigrant families can attest to this, especially in Asian countries, that it's not really a thing to say "I love you," like at the end of a phone call. When I saw my friends doing that, I was overcome with so much jealousy and hatred, and the fact that it came from, you know, the idea of control too. Like, I want to control the fact that I don't want to be this person anymore. And it was something I had to overcome and go, like, no, I like the fact that I don't really have a nose bridge, that I have monolids, that when I go to the States and a white guy comes up to me, he'll probably say something like, oh, like, I love Japan. And I have to go, I'm not Japanese. Like, there's a lot of ignorance sometimes that you have to realize there's no point of responding to that ignorance with hate. And that although we feel like we're a generation that feels so rushed because of climate change and everything, that we actually have a lot of time. We have all the time in the world. And if you have the time, it's okay to help people relearn their ignorance sometimes. It's not your place to teach them, but it's okay to say, that's not okay. You should go and freshen up, because we're in 2020 now, girl. Catch up, you know? We don't say these things anymore. We don't use those racial slurs.
Definitely. I completely agree. And I remember just at the beginning of this time, it was almost like it was like a trend to do something that has to do with a racial slur, or something that was, you know, that was racially insensitive. Like, I remember there was a trend on TikTok to make fun of people, like starting off the video with saying, now that fried chicken or something. It was just crazy, whether it had to do with anything that was going on in the world. And even you know, with even I'm sorry, like, I hope this is not a sensitive topic, but you know, like, even with the virus starting, I remember how disgusting some people were towards, you know, people who were immigrants, who looked different than white. And it was just like, I was very shocked that that's like where society had really gone, especially in 2020. Like, it's not 1920.
We passed this by now,
yeah.
but yet we're still here.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt. And I saw TikTok again, just me scrolling through TikTok, of a girl crying after she had just been yelled at by a white man, saying that this is your fault, you brought this virus here. And I was baffled, because I was like, I know we're not doing this in 2020. Like, and it was just shocking to me. And, you know, just like you said, I feel like so many people go through that, especially when they grow up in an environment like yours. You know, nothing wrong with it, of course, but, you know, like, when everyone around them looks different, they almost wish, wow, I wish I kind of looked like them. And you realize the opportunities, you realize what they experience, and it's not the same as yours. And I totally agree with that. And I wanted to say, you know, when you grew up, like what you're studying right now, did that kind of like influence how you felt, like, or what made you want to study what you study right now in college?
Yeah, I'd say my growing up, I did face, you know, a lot of it's because I'm not white, or it's because I'm not this. But I was lucky enough to have those little pockets, those little areas that it did not matter who you are or what you were. And I think that's what's so great about our generation now today, that I just have to say and put up there, we are so willing to change and willing to listen. So different from the others. And we have to remember not to let ourselves get down on that, because we feel like, oh, it's all hopeless, the world's turning to shit, this and this. But it's not really the case, because I just have so much hope for my generation, younger generations like this. And for myself, the biggest thing for me was trying to focus on what I wanted to do, because I knew that I still had a lot of opportunities. Just because I had to work 10 times harder than Sarah Smith, the girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, does not mean I could not get there. I just needed to work a bit 10 times harder, because that's just life for me right now. And I hope for my children that it won't be the case. And that's just what I have to keep remembering. And for myself, I have a bit of an interesting school journey. I started out doing ocean conservation at the University of British Columbia. I really had a point when I was 17 in high school where I was so unstable in my sense of self and who I was and what I wanted to put out to the world and also accept from it.
Yeah.
So I went to Sri Lanka for about a month at 17, a country I had no idea what it was before. A bit of a foolish part of my part. I can't believe my parents let me do this. But I went there to work on sea turtle rehabilitation. And the sea turtles are great, but what was more important was me really putting my sense of identity to the self. You just take yourself, no family, no nothing, 17 years old, and plop yourself in the middle of a country like Sri Lanka.
Oh, wow.
Survive. That's it. That's all you have.
That's definitely.
And I thought, this is it. I think I want to do oceans now. After I left, I felt so confident. I felt so renewed, a new person. So I went to the university and I started studying oceans. Turns out you need to be good at biology for that. And I am not dumb, but I am also not the most scientifically and mathematically smart person in the book. So I was getting by, there's threats of academic probation here and there. And I realized that I was never that great at school. I was still in honors and everything, but I needed to work real hard to get there, and I was not that happy when I still got the mark. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
So I decided to take a break from university for a while and go, okay, let's reset the mind for a second. And I moved to Hawaii for a bit, and I just kind of worked on the land. I lived in a tree house. I met some amazing people there.
Yeah.
Fell in love, did all the things that I knew that the luxury of time would allow me to do in something like an island like that, where everything's slow. There's no sense of time. No one has clocks or anything. Yeah. And when I came back, I realized that something I've always done and have always been good at in my life, if I like to think, is the arts. Yeah. And for me, it was really hard to narrow down on a specific kind of performing arts. I studied various kinds. But from then on, I decided when I got back, I'll go into film school because it's a type of acting that I really like. And it's also something that is a bit more new to me because I'm more of a theater performer myself. And I did a lot of Shakespeare and everything like that.
Yeah.
An Asian Lady Macbeth. So I broke barriers.
Yes, of course. Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
So now I'm focused on the art of performing arts and really trying to expand and change a narrative because I love the idea of going into something. This is an art form, of course, but something like this has been turned into an industry over time, the idea of acting. Yeah. And this industry was not built for people of color. It was built for us not to succeed. Just like a lot of places, not just this, business, law firms, everything. And I love that challenge because when I go into something, I'm not there to play ball. I'm just here to change the narrative. And that's the most exciting part. That's what lights the fire under your ass when there's no expectation.
Yeah. That's amazing. And that's so wonderful that someone is going into something knowing what you're going to expect to become of it, but you still go anyways. Like you said, law, acting. I feel like the medical school and anything, honestly, it's not really built for certain people, but going there anyways and testing the boundaries and testing the waters and breaking boundaries, that's absolutely wonderful and inspiring too. And I love that so much. And I wanted to say, you moved to, you visited Sri Lanka at 17, for a month, and you felt so determined of what you wanted to do. And I kind of wanted to ask you what, you said, it was turtle conservation, you said. Was it something you did there that, I kind of would just ask about it. What was that experience like for you? Was it a place where you helped turtles or and how did you manage, not having a job or doing something like that?
So Sri Lanka is one of those countries where the idea of recycling and especially plastic use and how to discard plastic has not quite been the center of the education and how you should go about disposal waste there. And that's on us as a world for not really focusing on not only countries like Sri Lanka, but Thailand, everything around that little area of the globe. And I think it's very important that when I went there, you cannot go there with me, I started out with very, very sheltered. And that was the first time I ever experienced culture shock like that.
Wow.
And when I went there, you kind of see that you are not better than them. They're not better than you. It doesn't matter how, like, just because Western society does something, for example, how we do plastic waste and disposal, does not mean that this country is lesser than. It is only the fact that you go there to learn and you realize that there are a lot of things you can learn from a country like that, which has not been given the luxury of being the first few countries listed on the UN to be able to have access to education, this kind of technology. And learning there, you get to see that how much they care about an animal like the sea turtles, which on the Sri Lankan beaches is where they like to go to lay their eggs. And the issue is that there's so much plastic and there's a lot of discarded waste there, not only from them, but from the fact that we throw waste into the ocean. And where Sri Lanka is, that's where the currents go and that's where the plastic gathers over there. So we did a lot of beach cleanup, but most importantly, we tried our best to learn. It was me and a group of other people a bit older than me from different parts of the country here to just learn about how in places like this, because Sri Lanka is just an example of something that's happening thousands and thousands and thousands of times around the world, of our need to always focus on where we are geographically sometimes, because back in Canada or whatever, we think we have a good grip on it. We do not have it under control. But as a kid, like in North America, we're taught in grade 4 and 5, reduce, reuse, recycle. That's not something that's really active there. So we had to learn and we had to see. And the biggest thing for me was seeing these sea turtles in a rehabilitation center. There were hundreds of them, each of them affected differently from plastic. But the biggest one that I did not even think about, because, you know, we all say, oh, ban plastic straws, metal straws. The biggest thing is the fact that the sea turtles eat the plastic bags because they look like jellyfish. And when you eat them, plastic does not sink, it floats. And a lot of things that sea turtles are actually suffering from is the fact that they cannot submerge underwater when they've eaten all this plastic because it's all in their stomach and it does not get out of their system. So the sea turtles stay floating. And they just stay floating in the water until they dry out or they die. So the things we had to do was, you know, push them underwater, be able to get them to eat. And it's one of those, we can't dissect a sea turtle and take the plastic out. So they're just kind of here in a rehabilitation center there for life. And other ones are shark fin fishing. A lot of the lines that go out actually cut off the fins of sea turtles and they cannot move anymore. They cannot swim. So sometimes what I saw a lot there was just the shell and just the head of a turtle. And it couldn't move, it couldn't do anything. It just moved its head like this. So there's a lot of things where you have to remind yourself that I cannot get down on looking at these things, as sad as it is to see like sea turtles that are like, you know, as old and even older than our parents. One of the closest things to like dinosaurs in their crustacean period and everything. And you have to remind yourself that they are not quite endangered yet, but they're just an example of what's happening in the entirety of the ocean, something that's double the size of countries, and we haven't even discovered so much of it. And we don't even understand quite much what we're doing to the ocean yet. We're just seeing little glimpses of these things. So I think it was one of those learning experiences where it really had to take me down from this world that I was living in my Western society world, and bring me back down to the fact that we're all on the earth and we all are responsible for the earth, because in then turn, the earth will then have the responsibility to us.
Of course, and I love that. And like you said, you know, you can't let it get you down, but yeah, that's absolutely impactful. And an animal as, you know, harmless as sea turtles too, like nothing, all they do is just swim and eat, and it's just so shocking, and it's really sad too. And almost, I kind of wanted to say, it's almost crazy because I remember it was a whole thing last summer, Save the Turtles, no plastic straws, and I remember almost every single restaurant, paper straws, even my high school was doing paper straws, and it was shocking. But then now it's almost like the world focuses on one thing for so long, and then it just jumps to the next topic, because now I hear almost no one. And maybe I'm not on that side of social media, or I'm not following the person who talks about it, but like it's almost like the people who are talking about it are not talking about it anymore. And I feel like that's another aspect of, just like our world in general, and like always jumping from a new topic. Something's always trending and something different, and what we thought was going to be trending forever has passed and gone. And I kind of wanted to tie it into social media and ask you, when it comes to social media and all the aspects, the good and the bad, I wanted to ask you, do you find social media as an environment that can be toxic and that can be really detrimental to a person?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think when I used to go to university, we needed to write a paper on social media, just like I think every university has to do for like their first or second year paper. And the thing about something like social media is that I personally can only have one social media account at a time. So I am perhaps not the best reference for this because I don't have Snapchat, I don't have Twitter. I just have Instagram because I love fashion. So I always love to keep up with fashion and makeup. So cool. But there was a time, I'd say 2 to 3 years ago, when I really got carried away with social media. And it was all I lived and breathed. I need to post something on my IG story every day. And I think everything is good in moderation, of course. And social media is such an important thing for us to be able to connect with people. And for people who are, example, in long distance relationships or friends overseas, it's been amazing, I think, in terms of being able to connect with people and also people you don't even know. I've never seen you in real life before, and yet here we are talking.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the biggest thing that everyone has said, and this is, a tale as old as time, is the effect on self-image on social media. And I think, we see a lot of influencers coming out now with going like, this is me without Facetune. This is like real me right now without the edits and everything. And it's a great step forward, of course. But I think social media is a breeding ground for comparison sometimes.
Definitely.
It comes to a point where, like, is it on us for constantly comparing ourselves, not only social media, but perhaps anything else we see in real life, other people in our classrooms? Or is it on something like the algorithm for always putting those things in front of us for us to see every time we turn it on?
Of course.
So I don't have an answer, unfortunately.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I completely understand. But what you said, a perfect explanation. I don't know if you watched it, but I watched The Social Dilemma, and what you said, it's like a new movie or documentary on Netflix, and it's just like you said, it's almost as if it's true. They put those things like they notice, like for example, you love fashion, so they notice you like fashion, so they put that in front of you. But the way that you look at it is so wonderful because you're using it as a way to, do something that you love. But like you said, when you used to have to, you used to say that you want to post something on your story every single day. I feel like it's so sad because, like you said, 7th grade was an impactful year for you. For me, it was also like 7th, 8th grade. It was almost like, whoa. This person has 1,000 followers. Time to keep posting because I need 1,000 followers. Let me go and follow who they're following so they can follow me back. And it's almost like people who are younger than us, because I know you're older than me, but like, I'm about to be 18, so people who are a little younger than me also, and people my age and your age, they also see social media followers as value, or they see it as, worth, or
self-worth. It's all about the self-worth.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about that. And it's almost like they don't see themselves as humans. It's almost like robots to social media. And it's like, I must have Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, every single social media app, and check each every single day. I remember, this is so random, but on YouTube, like every single person's morning routine before they even started waking up or something, they would have to check their phone. And I was just like, wow, that's absolutely crazy, because go back 20 years ago and no one would check their phone when they wake up. They would just wake up and keep going with their day, maybe read a book or something. And what you said was wonderful, and I know you don't have the answer, and I wanted to agree with you because that is very true, and social media can really impact a person, and especially with their self-worth. And I wanted to lastly say, do you have any advice for anyone out there who's, is going through a hard time, experiencing a hard time? And you said 7th grade for you, so maybe someone who is in 7th grade and they almost feel like no self-worth, or they can't express themselves. And I wanted to ask you about that, if you can have any advice for them.
Okay. I'm going to pretend I'm looking at them in the eyes right now.
Yeah.
Look at me, all right? Younger version of me and everyone, even if you're older than me,
Yeah.
just keep repeating this to yourself. The root of all suffering is attachment. That's not my quote. I forgot who said it, though, but I read it somewhere.
Yeah.
But the root of all suffering is attachment, and do not take time to revel in the misery, revel in that. Instead, take your energy and revel in the tops of your life, the happiness, the love, the joy. We do not have enough energy to give out hate anymore. We do not have enough energy to humor petty things like gossip and, oh, that person really irks me in class right now. Like, just ruined my day when they said this one thing or something.
No.
We don't have time for that anymore. We just have the luxury of time for love, to give back, and to accept. Because what you think is the worst thing in your life right now and is the bane of your existence is not that big. And obviously, I don't know you. I don't know your life either. But trust and believe when I say that every year you're going to be a new person, and it's only going to be a better version of you.
Yes.
That's all I can say, at least from my experience. And I have so much of myself. I go, this. But I'm not putting it at the front of me right now. I just put it right beside me on my shoulder like a little parrot. And I go, you can just stay with me here. And I remember that you're here when I go throughout my day.
Definitely.
And you don't have to block my vision anymore.
That's amazing, wonderful. And another thing I want to say with what you said, I feel like it perfectly relates to this too shall pass, which I hear a lot. And yeah.
Thank you, Eckhart Tolle.
Yes. And I feel like so many people say that because, like honestly, what you're worried about today, or like if you think back like 10 years ago, what you were so worried about and thought would never end, 10 years later, it's absolutely gone. And everything that you said, amazing. The advice, wonderful, because that is exactly what I feel like so many people are forgetting, that, worrying about what someone said in class or what someone thinks about you, you're not going to worry about that in 10 years. But it can be hard, in the moment, trying to forget something, trying to ignore something. But yeah, it's so wonderful to take that with you for your whole life, throughout your entire journey and everything. And I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your experience, your story about mental health, and what you experienced in your life, and being so open. And I wanted to say to anyone who's watching this that, you're not alone. You will always have someone who's there for you. And even though time looks hard right now, or like things in your life look hard or overwhelming, or too many things happening at once, in the end, it will all work itself out, and everything will just be carefree, stress-free, and just take a deep breath through everything and just take it one day at a time. And thank you again so much, Amanda. And I hope that everyone who watched this really enjoyed this. And I will definitely link Amanda's social media down below. Again, her art, amazing. Her page, amazing. And I really hope you enjoyed this and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.